This is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. If you like my videos, please hit the red subscribe button. Today I'd like to talk about Cowtown cops. I'll admit it, I'm a Cowtown cop. By that I mean I'm a police officer in two municipalities which are extremely rural. In one, I have 40 square miles of road that I have to cover, and in the other I work in a village with a population of around 1,100. When I work by myself. I don't have a partner, I don't have backup immediately available. But you know, each department, whether it's a large department or a small department, has its own personality. I remember years ago, the first time I went to Police Week, I met two New York City police officers. And when I was talking with Kent and Patrick, they asked me where I worked, and I named the village I worked in at that time. And they said, you know, what the heck is that? And I said, it's kind of like Mayberry on crack, which it is. You know, there were people in the village. For example, there was a woman who every week, if she saw I was working on a Saturday or whatever during the morning, I could depend on there being some fresh chocolate chip cookies hanging in a sack on the doorway by the time I went back in for lunch. So yeah, it was Mayberry on crack. On the other hand, we had people who actually were overdosing. We had people involved in all different kinds of things. But anyways, in talking to these two New York police officers, you know, the subject of backup came up. And I mentioned that I worked in the southeastern part of the county. I was 20 miles away from the sheriff's department. And that my backup, usually there were times where it could take up to 15 to 20 minutes to get there. They told me that I was absolutely crazy for working by myself. That there was no way that they would ever do that. These were two New York City cops. These were guys who were getting flaming garbage cans thrown at them from the top of buildings. These were guys answering shots called. So I told them I thought they were the crazy ones having to work in an environment like that. But then they pointed out to me that when they had something happen, they never went in by themselves. They always had somebody there with them, and that if it was a serious situation, probably within a minute, they could have up to 10 other cops with them. You know, there's times where I don't know that we have 10 cops working in our county other than in the major city. So, you know, that's nothing that's ever going to happen here. You know, as a Cowtown cop. You know, when you go through the police academy, they tell you, never go into a domestic situation alone. Well, you know what? When you're a Cowtown cop, you might have to do that. In fact, there are times where I've had to do that. Where I was waiting for the county to come, and their ETA was 15 minutes, and all of a sudden you hear screaming and crashing from inside the building. You're not just going to sit by and let somebody beat the living hell out of their wife because backup's not there. You know, kind of an amusing story. I had that happen to me on numerous occasions, but one of the more memorable ones is I was at a kind of a rundown trailer park, you know, and that's not to say anything about the people that were living there. They were doing the best that they could under the circumstances they were in. But there was one frequent flyer, and he and his wife had both been in trouble numerous different times, and I ended up going out there. It was extremely cold outside, and I parked, you know, a ways away from the trailer, and I was outside listening to them, and it was about 2:30 in the morning, and I could hear arguing inside, and I got on. Of course, the county told me their ETA was 15 minutes or whatever. Well, I'd been outside about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden I heard the woman inside screaming and yelling, so I decided that I needed to go in. So I went up on the porch, and as I reached to open the screen door, a piece of the porch broke under my foot, and I fell forward, and I hit the inside door, and it opened with a loud crash. Well, it looked like I was making a dynamic entry, and I yelled, you know, you over there, you know, and they did what I told them to, because I think it scared the living hell out of them when I came busting through the door that way. They didn't realize it was an accident. Well, the county arrived probably 5 or 10 minutes later, and I had them take one of the individuals out of the car, and I was standing in the house, and like I say, it was cold. It was probably 5 degrees at the most outside. And when I went back inside the house after we got the party separated, I took my glove off and I started to make out the report, and one of the first things you ask is, were you struck? And And she said, no, he just pushed me. And I said, was anybody hurt? And she said, no, nobody was hurt. Well, then I noticed there was a little pile of blood on the floor. And I said, where's that blood coming from? And she told me, well, that's coming from you. And I looked down, and when I'd gone through that screen door, I must have caught my hand on it, and it slashed it down the side here. But as long as I had my glove on and it was cold, I was keeping the blood contained. Of course, when I took my glove off, it opened up the wound. Well, she offered to go get me some towels to put on, and then I thought, you know what, I'd just rather have tetanus directly injected into me. So I politely declined and was able to get my glove back on and complete things. But you know, as a Cowtown cop, there's times we have to deal with things and we can't wake them back up. I've had to deal with bar fights, I've had to deal with domestic situations. And you know, it's great when backup gets there. You know, particularly when you don't do it every single day, there are intricacies that you forget. Whether it's in DWI paperwork, whether it's in domestic abuse cases, whatever it is. So as a Cowtown cop, I depend on the sheriff's deputies that work this area if something serious comes up. But you know what? I love being a Cowtown cop. I love coming into a village where people wave at me with all their fingers. The other job I have where I cover 40 square miles and I'm the only one out there, with the exception of the county that comes through occasionally, the majority of the people are good, decent people. You know, it's the same as when I worked in the prison. There was a 10% rule. 10% of the population was going to be pure a-holes. The other 90% just wanted to get on with life. 90% of the inmates just wanted to do their time and get out. You know, it's the same way whether you work in a large city or as a Cowtown cop. The majority of people just want to lead a good, peaceful life. And hopefully, I'm helping people to do that. Hopefully, my brothers and sisters in the large departments are helping people to do that. We're all here for each other. So, whether you're a Cowtown cop or whether you're a big city cop, your job matters. Until next time, this is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. Stay safe and watch your back.